Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are here to discuss the Season 2 premiere of Peacemaker, the HBO Max series in the DCU. I'm going to be one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Vinny Albano.
Hello, hello.
We haven't talked about the show yet on the network because I don't know if Peacemaker Season 1 came out. I think it was 2022 maybe when it came out.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually watch Season 1 up until recently.
So you binged it before Season 2 started.
Yes.
So this is like fresh in your mind. You're kind of connecting more with the Peacemaker character because he hasn't been seen. Well, he wasn't Superman. We did talk about in our Superman review the quick sort of cameo that he has, connecting him to the DCU because he was technically a part of the DCEU before James Gunn and Peter Safran were running DC Studios. But coming off of the premiere, it has a different tone a little bit than the first season. I mean, it's still very much in the DNA of what the show is, but it's dealing with a lot of more, I don't want to say like more serious topics because obviously he like saved the world in Season 1 technically, but it's a lot more personal, and I think it's going to deal a lot more with his character and Jen Holland's character so far, what we've seen in the first episode. So I am curious. Start the best you can with non-spoiler, but we are going to eventually get into spoilers because we're going to discuss the whole episode. On what were your thoughts, your first reaction to the premiere of Season 2 for Peacemaker?
Yeah, I have very high hopes. I really loved the first season. And this season, like you said, feels a lot more personal. It feels a lot more intimate already off the bat. And I know James Gunn, I'm paraphrasing here, he said this on a Twitter post, but I felt it, and that is that this season is going to be about him finding his humanity in some way. And I just love that they're throwing him back. As terrible as this sounds, I love to kind of see him at rock bottom again.
Yeah.
Because as an audience, that creates so much more drama, and he's just so lost. And same with Harcourt, Jennifer Holland's character, so lost and just wanting to feel something so desperately, and obviously that leads to bad things in humanity. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I think that one of the things that I was nervous about, because knowing going into the season, I think we talked about it when we talked about the trailer, because I think we have a video up on the channel where we discussed the future of the DCU before obviously Peacemaker had come out, right after Superman was released. And one of the big things for me that I was nervous about, because I loved how single story Season 1 of Peacemaker was, and he establishes all these characters. It's kind of the breakout of Chukwudi Iwuji, which leads to his role in Guardians and things like that. But within this season, they're already going to do something that deals with different universes in a very new cinematic universe that James Gunn is setting up. And because we're parallel with Marvel right now doing the multiverse story, I'm already like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this. But they do it in a way, and I love because you use the word intimate. They do it in a way that reminds me of the one project that I think Marvel does it really well with, which is Loki, where they make it about the characters first, dealing within the world of multiple universes. Yeah. Because what they do in this first episode is they have this very personal connection, which we'll get into, for Chris, that is something that can definitely change his entire outlook on the world in general. And even the earth that he is living on, he might not be as compelled to stay in. So I think that what James Gunn does so well is with these bigger overall ensembles and bringing these characters together in these larger stories, they still feel so personal and intimate because he's just such a good writer, and he understands these characters better than anybody. And he had said prior to the season, he was like, I think this is the best thing I've ever written, the Peacemaker Season 2. So that gives me a lot of hope. And I know that Press was given episodes 1 through 5, and he purposely was like, I'm not sending the last 3 episodes. You have to watch week by week because there's a lot that's going to happen. So I agree with you. I am really excited for this season. I'm very happy with the premiere. There are some people online, I don't know if you've seen this, there's people online that seem a bit disappointed by this first episode. Was there anything in this episode that you were disappointed by, or have you seen that clamoring online?
No, I was not disappointed. However, I feel like I know where they're coming from, and it comes from a place like I mentioned before. I binged season one, and season one, then watching Superman, it's like hype, 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 and then we're going back to, you know, this episode where there's not a lot of theatrics up until the very end.
Yeah.
And we're back to just kind of very grounded, very normal human life stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that's where people will get disappointed. I don't think that is a valid critique, in my opinion, because that is what this character, one, we're at a TV level, so it's not going to be hopping off the rails of Superman. It's not going to be no Superman.
Yeah.
And also, this is the Peacemaker character and Harcourt, with Jennifer Holland's character, and all the, Isabela and all them. They're human. They're not.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and they're also not a part of any superhero organization or kind of bigger than life. They are grounded in that scope, so I really liked it. Returning back to kind of boots on ground type of storytelling, if that's the right way to phrase it. So I get where they're coming from, but I do not agree.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I think that they still do a really good job of establishing what this larger world is now that they're building without having it be fed through action. You know, like we obviously have, and this isn't a spoiler necessarily because it's in the trailer, but like we know that the Justice Gang is in this season, and there's a scene that plays in one of the teasers that is literally one of the opening scenes to this season. So you're already establishing this different world that he is in, and you're right, he's not a part of this overall organization. Now, coming from the Suicide Squad, where he's recruited by Waller, and I just love how what Gunn's able to do is he's able to weave in these characters that are significant, but they're not always going to be like the big bads or these big heroes that, and we still get Green Lantern, one of the Green Lanterns. So it's something that I feel like he did a good job with in season one. He's already off to a good start with season two. We're going to discuss the episode at length, so this is probably your spoiler warning because there's a lot that I want to discuss that goes into the details of the episode. With one of the big things obviously being what Chris discovers, right? As soon as we get the opening to the season, we see that when Eagly wants to go outside, his great bird confidant, who I love, Eagly is such a great character, and he walks into this. I forget. Do you remember the name of it? It's a chamber. It's I forgot the exact terminology.
Quantum unfolding
chamber.
Reality,
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, quantum unfolding chamber. He lets Eagly fly around, and we see that chamber in last season with Peacemaker's dad, the White Dragon, Agee Smith, played wonderfully by Robert Patrick in the first season. And he discovers that there's just kind of this alien that wanders in to showcase that this is happening. Like there's this other worlds that he can just go through a door and he can just end up somewhere else. And what we come to discover is that in this, what James Gunn is referring to as Earth 2, Peacemaker discovers that it is a world in which Agee Smith is a great guy. He was never a piece of shit father. He's actually not even referred to as the White Dragon. And his brother is still alive, who he killed in season one. Well, you see in a flashback, he killed in season one due to a fight that his father kind of sets up for gambling. And that tugged at my heartstrings, like right away. Like, and the fact that he knew his brother right away. Like, first of all, Cena's acting ability from movie to movie, or like from Suicide Squad to Peacemaker season 1 to Peacemaker season 2, within one episode, I already felt that he's so much even more believable as this character. Yeah. And he understands the character so much more. Like I said, him knowing that his brother was alive and that he played this bigger role was great to me. How did that scene play out for you? And especially diving into that, now we're dealing with the different dimensions, which we do get teased to us in Superman. Like we see it in Superman, how they're opening these rifts to other worlds. And we talked about that in the full review, obviously, which you guys can check out. But for you in the context of this episode and what we're going to do in season 2, how did you feel they handled the introduction of that with this episode?
I really loved it. That's a really great point you make about John Cena, because I didn't even realize, and that's a good thing that you don't even realize the acting ability because it should be invisible. That's the job of a good actor, good filmmakers in general. Just maybe the editor, director, etc. They're just so in it, it makes it invisible, and that's a great point. The scene when he's just watching his brother come out of the car and he's just stun locked is incredible. I love all the little moments. I love Robert Patrick. I watched the behind the scenes after the episode, how that improvised little tug on the ear and all the little kind of mannerisms between the three actors. It's great setup. It's great setup. If I had to complain, though, about one thing, and I think this is my biggest complaint about the episode, is when they are talking together at moments, the dialogue does feel very like, okay, audience, this is how it is in this universe. We love each other.
Yeah.
And rather than feeling natural, it kind of feels like, remember when you really loved me, Dad? Remember when you really did this? And I'm like, okay, we get it. We get it. You know what I mean? So that felt very artificial to me, but everything else and conceptually was really cool and very fun with the cliffhanger that we leave off on with John Cena or, Chris killing himself, essentially.
Yeah, I agree. I think that in terms of the one, I guess, gripe you have with it, I can understand that part of it because I think it's like the one line that happens right before they go inside where he's like, you old fart or something. He's like, come on in. And I'm like, all right, like it's a weird line of dialogue.
Yeah.
But there is something with the simplicity of understanding, again, kind of where the Smiths came from, it reminds me of where and I don't agree with this, but there was complaining online about Ma and Pa Kent in Superman. And they were like, well, they're just like, he stereotyped them into just simpletons. And it's like James Gunn grew up, or one of James Gunn's friends was somebody that worked on the Howard Stern show. And I believe he called him to ask him about his upbringing in that area. And I think James Gunn also might be from middle America. But especially from the region where I think it's Nebraska is where he, right? Am I, or Kansas? It's Kansas. And he called this guy and he basically had his parents send a recording. He sent a recording to James Gunn of his parents talking to him for 10 minutes. And he modeled a lot of what those performers did in Superman based on that, because that was real Americana for what that section of the world is.
Yeah.
And I do think that, because what we get with Augie's a very interesting character, because we don't really get an explanation, unless I'm misremembering. You just watched it, so maybe you can correct me. But Augie is this very brash. He's a terrible, abusive father. He is awful to his kids. He blames Chris for everything and obviously killing his brother. But they're from that I believe it's Indiana. I think they might be from, or somewhere where it also just they're not living the best of lifestyle and the upbringing and whatever. And so to me, that reminds me of just a simple sort of way of being, if you know what I mean. But then he's also this one that has this quantum chamber in his house. So there has to be some level of intelligence that he possesses. And I don't think that's ever explained. That's never explained, right? In season 1?
No, not at all.
So that's something that I do kind of hope we get some answers to at some point in this season, because I do agree there could be moments where it's all right, this is interesting the way they're handling the relationship between Augie and Chris and his brother, who I'm forgetting the brother's name for the character, but David Denman plays him. Best known for The Office. He at least that's what I know him best from, where he plays Pam's original boyfriend. Eventually she goes on to Jim. But I think he even does a really good job, and he's a welcome addition into this because he kind of just fits that vibe of what that family dynamic is. Did you agree with the first episode that we get, the little bit that we get of him?
Yeah, I liked him a lot, actually. The character of Keith, I am interested if they're going to make him more complex or just, the loving brother type. I hope they have more complexity to him. More complexity, honestly, to the entirety of Earth, too. Because not that I want these characters to be bad or anything, because I like, obviously, the whole concept of this season is on the tail end of them being loving and actually growing up in a not a toxic area. But no matter how good you are, there's some nuance, there's some complexity to these characters. So I hope that is expanded upon, and I'm curious what he is as a superhero, because in the intro of season 2 and on the newspaper clippings that they find in the house, Keith is also a superhero along with Agee and Chris.
Yeah.
So
the top trio, I believe they're called, right?
Yeah. So I'm curious about that, and I like his addition. I do.
Yeah. I think this is early speculation, but I'm just trying to read the tea leaves here. So James Gunn obviously said doesn't give away those last 3 episodes. Brandon Davis had interviewed him, and he's like, it either means that there's some big surprises that people aren't expecting, whether it comes to character or story, or there's a lot of twists and turns that can happen. What I'm getting from the vibe is that I think, obviously, so again, we're talking spoilers at this point. At the end of the episode, we see that the Chris Smith we know, the Peacemaker we know, kills the Earth 2 Chris Smith accidentally, but he's being assaulted. It seems like he might be killed, and he hits the button to get his jetpack to go up, and he gets spiked, and that's the end of him. And what I think we're going to see is the Chris Smith we know going into Earth 2, obviously, playing the part of the Earth 2's version of Peacemaker, and enjoying that life, getting to be the hero that he always wanted to be, having a great relationship with his father, his brother being alive, trying to win his ex back, which we know from the context of the photo that it's Harcourt. My speculation could be, what if within those last 3 episodes he actually discovers something terrible about his brother? And I think that could be something that actually winds up getting him to come back, on top of the fact that I think the obvious writing on the wall is that we're going to see Harcourt and Chris have a relationship that is maintainable going forward, because I think that's what we're working towards. Even in terms of the intro, which we could also talk about, it has a slower approach. It's a more, I don't want to say it's a more romantic song, but it taps into those notes. And what people have been realizing recently, I never knew this, I never even looked at this for the first season, but so much of what that first season has in that choreography and the lyrics actually plays back in the season, like it has a purpose. So the same thing is going to have a purpose in season 2. We're just not going to know it until the end, obviously, you know. So for you, do you think something similar can happen, where you think we might see a switch with, I mean, obviously it could be Agee, but I do think with Keith it would probably obviously hit a lot harder if this is the person that he loves more than anybody in the world, and that has to be the wedge between whatever winds up happening.
Yeah, I 100% think there's going to be a switch. Yeah. I mean, the killing of Chris number 2 is a Chekhov's gun that's going to go off, in the sense that they're going to find out eventually that he is not the real Chris.
Yeah.
So they're going to find out that he's not the real Chris. That could be a turning point, or maybe, like you suggested, that Keith has deeper, darker secrets, etc., etc. Totally think that it's all going to kind of burn and crumble to the ground by the end.
Do you think that maybe even something with Harcourt, because we know that they're broken up in Earth 2, and Keith makes the comment where he's like, man, I wish you really hung on to that girl. She was a good one. Do you think that there could be something with the goodness really deep within Harcourt that exists across the universes, where maybe Harcourt knew something as well about their family, and that was maybe where the rift happened? Do you think that could be something that we could wind up seeing?
That's totally valid. You know, I can see this going into now that you suggested, as cliche as this is, you know, the whole theme that love prevails beyond space and time, right? Interstellar. The answer to Interstellar is literally love. Like, love is the answer. That is what stops everything and saves humanity, right? So it could kind of portray that same idea by the end of this, where love, no matter how many universes, it's all kind of like one connecting thing. Could also play into familiar love, right? From a family perspective rather than romantic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree. I think that Harcourt is going to have a big playing role in all of this.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's season 1 plays a lot more into the friendship with the team, but obviously more with Chris and Adebayo. And Harcourt still obviously is like one of the main players, but I think she already has a lot more to do and a lot more complexity to her character.
Yeah.
So what a good way to transition. We see her, she's obviously boiling over, right? She's in this mode where it's almost like she's resembling kind of a similar mindset to where Chris is, but I think Chris is approaching it from more of a depressive state of mind and a loneliness thing. She's alone because she doesn't have a team anymore. She's known to be a member of one of these organizations, these crime organizations, for so long, and she just wants to feel something. And we get that really nice tender moment when Chris goes and visits her and puts the ice on her knuckles, and it's like you kind of see and can understand where that connection is going to form, or it at least existed previously, and we get kind of alluded to that on the boat, the boat that we don't know about, and maybe we'll find out about. But the bar scene in particular is the one I want to talk about, and the choreography is great.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about that scene where she goes into the bar and she's getting hit on, and she just gets into a massive brawl with like a handful of patrons at this bar?
It felt, which I don't know if this is a critique or not. It did feel like a repeat of season 1, episode 1, where she gets hit on and she beats the guy up, but different result this time. Like you said, the choreography really stunning for this season so far, and I just love her as a character and her trying to navigate through her anger and like I said at the beginning of the review, the parallel between her and Chris and how they just want to feel something. Like Chris throws a whole orgy and he's snorting cocaine, and she's going out and fighting dudes and getting her ass beat. So I really love her character. I have no idea where they're gonna go with her, especially like prime Earth Harcourt. What do we do with her right now? She's gonna have a redemption arc by the end of this, right? Where she's definitely gonna get better, right? But I don't know. I did love that scene though. Singularly as like in a bottle, that scene is great, and I like I mentioned, I love how it plays into that element of her character. Yeah,
I think the one thing, but I do agree with you, there's the parallels between Chris and Harcourt.
Yeah.
The one difference that I noticed, I don't know if you saw this as well, and I did hear it, I don't know if it was the after the episode thing that they showed on HBO Max like you talked about, or I listened to I don't know if you've watched any of them. I watched the first one for season 1, but I watched the podcast that they did for season 2, episode 1. And they had Frank Grillo on, they had Sol Rodriguez, they had the actress, now I'm forgetting her name, we already said it, Harcourt, Jennifer Holland. They have Economos on, Steve Agee, and so they're talking about how when she finally does get what she wants in that scene, there's a very small smirk that you see form on her face, and it is fulfilling for her in some way, right? With Chris, we're seeing that orgy is not fulfilling. It's a band-aid to the situation. It's something to make him feel literally something, obviously. But he doesn't have sex with anybody in the orgy. He kind of indulges a little bit, but not to the level that everybody else in the room is around him. And he needs to go back to that door. He needs to go back to feel what that means and what he's curious about in terms of that, right? And so that's where I think their paths, even though they are kind of connected, are going to go like this, and I think that what we're going to wind up seeing is that Harcourt is in the case of she doesn't feel like she needs anybody to make her feel a deeper sense of who she is right now, but I think she's going to come to find out that that's what she needs in Chris. And that's going to be the separation, too, of why she's going to need to be the cog of the one to go and get Chris, along with Adebayo and Economos and whoever else from the team is coming. Oh, what's his name? oh my god, I can't think of it. His Vigilante,
Yeah.
who we get the reintroduction to in this episode. Vigilante is my favorite character in season 1.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. Obviously, Peacemaker's a great character. A lot of them are great. Vigilante to me is so great. We get one scene with him on the phone with Economos. He's still kind of staying in the loop with him. Were you happy to see the little bit that we get of him in episode 1?
Yes, I actually did want to mention that because that scene was not that it was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, but it was really charming, and I 100% agree. Just having really enjoyed his character in season 1, having that scene of them talking on the phone. I want to see more of him. I really do. I want him to play a big part in this season, hopefully. So, and he's just so silly. He's so goofy. I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a great character too.
Yeah.
Hopefully we get a lot more with him. Again, James Gunn does a really good job of balancing the ensemble and a lot of the things he does, so I do think we'll get more from him. There was one other thing that I was going to mention. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Let's start. We went through a lot of the episode, but we didn't talk about really what the intro of the episode is. And we get the retrospective of, it's very new to you, but at the end of the season 1 finale of Peacemaker, we see him run into the DCEU Justice League.
Yeah.
And Ezra Miller's Flash is there, and Jason Momoa's Aquaman is there. Gunn had talked about it a lot in interviews that there was one thing in particular that they were going to retcon. And this is what we see in the recap. Instead of that being it in the intro to season 2, instead of it being those characters, it is the Justice Gang plus David Cornsweet's Superman and Millie Alcock's Supergirl, at least the silhouettes of them. And we get actual scenes with Guy Gardner, played by Nathan Fillion, Isabela Merced's Hawkgirl, and we get a little bit more of an intro to Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn, one of the many characters he's playing in the DCU, obviously his brother being the architect of the DCU. What did you think about that retcon and also the scene where Chris is trying to join the Justice Gang and what that all entailed?
It was really good. It was
so
really
funny.
Good. White Rabbit is like such a stupid throwaway joke, but I love it. And I think they did a really good job. It was a very simple way of retconning, but it was perfect. Like, you literally couldn't have been a better way of doing it. And I give so many props to James Gunn because it's so simple. There was no, like, hefty explanation, like, oh, guys, this scene doesn't exist anymore. No. Just replace it.
Yeah, just change it.
Hey, this is what happened, actually. And it's so simple. It goes by like that. Boom, boom. All that work of retconning is done now. So that is really impressive on my part. When it comes to the Justice Gang, I really love that scene. I love how it plays into Chris's insecurities, just like season 1 did best, where they play into Chris's insecurities and everyone around him is just poking at the bear. And in season 1, he's a much different character now. In season 1, he definitely put on that persona of like, oh, fuck off, like, fuck you. Now he's a lot more vulnerable. So we see him be open to Adebayo about how he felt hurt by that whole interaction. The one thing I think Guy Gardner, that makes sense that he's being a dickhead. Maxwell Lord, Hawkgirl, I'm not too familiar with her character, but I know her from Justice League and Unlimited, the animated series. I don't remember her being that much. I don't know if it's the same version of Hawkgirl, like the same, how we have like the different Robins and whatnot. I don't remember her being that much of a wise ass. So I'm curious where they're going with that, or if James Gunn is really just trying to be like very James Gunny in that moment, which I think, as much as I love him as a filmmaker, can be his flaw.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, that's my comment.
Yeah, so I will say I saw something on Twitter. I think it was in the context, maybe even before Peacemaker came out, where they were kind of breaking down. And again, I do think that, Marvel's very good at this too, and they have, I'm sure they have people in place, or maybe in the DC's case, it really is Gunn, because he's such a comic book influenced nerd, and obviously he has all these comic writers in his writing rooms and things like that. But there's a very quick scene where Isabela Merced's Hawkgirl is on the phone, or she's reacting to something on the news. Again, I've only seen Superman once. I wish I've seen it more, but I've only seen it once, so I don't even remember the context of what the scene is. But you could see in where her apartment is, wherever her house is, that there's indications that she could be a college-aged person. And so I do think if that is the case, it fits into the sense of this modern sensibility where, again, that not to be a stereotype that every teenager is an asshole, but it's just this non-understanding and just being like, well, this dude looks like a tool. Look at this dumb freaking toilet bowl on his head. Like, he looks like an asshole. So, but I will agree with you in that I do think that James Gunn can be too James Gunny at times and just want to keep telling joke after joke after joke. And I do think that hopefully he'll be able to rein that in. But this is also a series, and he's very open about it, that anything can happen. Peacemaker is literally the series that when he made it, there was so much confusion on what was happening in DC in general and Warner Brothers that it was like the one space where they were like, yeah, just do whatever you want. Because they didn't even know if Peacemaker was still going to be around. You know, it was a character by John Cena. He's a professional wrestler. But I do like that scene. I like what we're seeing from Sean Gunn's Maxwell Lord already. I like that James Gunn is establishing this world as kind of these 4 big tech firms running and gunning for superheroes and what that could mean overall. And the context of how metahumans are going to play a role in the larger scheme of the world. And that's what I'm excited about going forward. That's what I think. I'm excited to see where we end up by the end of Peacemaker. Obviously, we're dealing with these events that can be messed up because of him traveling through different dimensions, and maybe we wind up seeing that. And we do know that Michael Rooker is playing some spiritual character that it was already teased in one of the teasers. He's in the intro. It's a character in the comics. I can't remember the name, but so we're going to get a lot more broken down for us week to week. But I thought it was a really good premiere. I'm excited to see where they go from here. Is there anything else that I failed to mention that you wanted to bring up, or maybe speculation going into next week, or anything else?
Not really. I echo the same sentiments. Very solid premiere. I very much enjoyed it. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
You know, I think another thing, but it will be expanded upon because we saw it in the trailer. What Rick Flag Sr., they're very light.
Thank you for bringing that up. Yes.
Yeah, very light in this episode about it. They're like, oh, Rick Flag Sr. has been really on Peacemaker's ass ever since, he murdered his son. So they're very light about it, but it's going to be a major plot point. I'm excited for them to expand on that plot point. And I want to see Frank Grillo as the character in live action. We saw snippets of him in Superman, and then obviously Creature Commando, that's voice acting, but seeing him move and fight as the character would be really exciting, especially since he was an MMA fighter, right?
Yeah, he at least has an MMA background. I know that he was a part of an MMA show, and I think he's at least trained in boxing or MMA. So he definitely, and he's done plenty of action movies in his career, and obviously he played Crossbones in the MCU, so he's got a lot of experience in that. But I'm glad you brought that up because it is a small scene. We do get an intro to a new character. Sasha Bordeaux, I believe, is her name. Sol Rodriguez plays the character. I actually saw it in the podcast too that she was basically in second place for the engineer in Superman. So James still really liked her, loved her audition, brought her in for a different character. But what we get in that small scene is we get our first glimpse at Frank Grillo with Joel Kinnaman's Rick Flag in a photo. But the bigger thing is that he decides that he wants to make what's happening with Peacemaker, I forget exactly the terminology, but it's like a priority one, like the highest of priority, even though he's leading this organization, Argus, that Amanda Waller used to be in charge of before Adebayo kind of outs her at the end of season 1. And it's obvious that we're going to see his retribution play out week by week. And it's just a little nugget, but it's enough to have you understand how serious this is for him to get that retribution against Peacemaker. So there's a lot of people going after Chris already leading into this. And there's a lot more speculation and things that we could kind of see play out. I'm really excited to see how they're building this world already. Coming off of Superman, Creature Commandos was a great setup to understand who these non-human characters and the role that they're going to play in the larger scheme of the DCU. It makes me more excited for like Clayface and what that's going to mean. And Clayface is also in Creature Commandos. So there's a lot. He's doing a great job of building this beat by beat, I think. And he's already writing his next Superman saga movie. So that's exciting because we're going to go into production probably right after Batman Part 2 goes into production. So there's a lot on the horizon. There's a lot to be excited about. I'm excited to cover Peacemaker with you week to week.
Oh, yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited. But that is going to be it for our review. We're going to be here week by week, most likely. I'm going to be going to the Toronto International Film Festival in a little bit less than 2 weeks now. So we might miss an episode within the time that I'm there. But other than that, we're going to be covering week by week. Vinny's going to be on a lot of the episodes. I'm going to be on a lot of the episodes. Michael Peniston's going to be joining us for some, as well as Sean Villa eventually. So get excited for that. Really excited to break it down for the next 8 weeks with the 8 episodes we're going to be getting with season 2. Give this video a like. Let us know in the comments, what did you guys think about the season 2 premiere? What are some of your theories going forward? What are some of the things that we might have missed that you guys really want to talk about? We'd love to have a conversation with you guys in the comment section. And you guys can also follow us on social media. All that stuff is in the YouTube description. It's also below me in the video. We look forward to covering this show and more stuff in the DCU going forward. So just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.